So good evening, everyone. Welcome to the fourth session of the Organic Home Gardening webinar series organized by Conservation. This series was organized following the success of the previous series on organic home gardening. This time, however, you will receive a valuable certificate for your participation. So there are 7 sessions in this course, and throughout the series, you will learn how to design your garden, understand what crops to grow, how to prepare plant beds, which fertilizers to use, manage pests and diseases, and conserve water. So there are 3 certificates which will be awarded at the end of this series based on your attendance and completion of any interactive assessments. Certificate of distinction will be awarded for the attendees who have participated in the webinar series, practiced all the concepts, and sent photos of your work. Certificate of merit will be awarded to the attendees who have participated in the webinar series, practiced some concepts, and provided photo evidence of your work. Certificate of participation will be awarded for attendees who have participated in minimum of 6 webinars. So please note that all participants must register with a working email address for the webinar series to be eligible for any of the certificates. Our resource person for the day is Ms. Anuradha Ranasinghe, who is an entrepreneur and agricultural consultant of Agro Consultancy. I welcome you on behalf of the team, Ms. Anuradha, for today's session. So if you have any questions related to today's session, you can simply put them in the Q&A tab. And I would really like to tell you to not ask any questions in between because it might disturb. Okay, so without further ado, let's begin, right? These are some of the photographs that were sent by our participants based on some of the concepts they practiced from our last time session on water conservation. And Radha, would you like to say something about it?
Thank you very much, Jenny, and good afternoon, all of you, and you all warmly welcome for the fourth session. Thanks for sharing, dear participants. I think you have exactly done what we have instructed you. So some of you have used coconut husk to prepare beds, and some of you have done using mulching, have done mulching, and you have sent some pictures using the watering using the garden hose. We are really happy about the progress, and thank you so much for these encouraging pictures. So we'll move to today's session. So our today's session is crop selection, establishment, and nursery management. So we'll discuss in detail how we can select crops for particular areas and how to establish those crops and how to do prepare nurseries. And I'll be explaining some simple plant propagation techniques. Will be very useful for you to manage your days, especially which will be for you in home garden. Okay, so let's discuss about crop selection. I think I already mentioned you about during the garden designing also how to select crops. So again, I'm telling you. So there are some physical and time factors we need to think about, especially available environmental factors like availability of sunlight. As I mentioned before, there are sun-loving crops and there are shade-loving crops. So we need to think them. What are the sun-loving crops, and we need what are the shade-loving crops, and we need to place them according to the availability of environmental factors. Then again, soil moisture content. That also need to consider because some of the crops they prefer more sunlight, more soil moisture levels, and some crops they like more water because they are more water loving plants, so they like more water conditions. Then again, you need to think about, I think we already discussed in this in previous sessions as well. Then we need to consider about availability of space, because I know I have with the experience, because some of you have selected crops which are not appropriate to the available space in your garden. especially like some trees or especially some fruit trees you have planted in your tiny small garden, but when they gets bigger, you face difficulties of allocating space and you feel different problems, especially day-to-day plant management, as well as especially when you engage in day-to-day activities, these plants becoming a problem for you. Then you need to again remove them or either prune them, or you won't get the expected outcome from these plants because you are not having enough space. Then again, you need to consider about the availability of time, especially because most of you are very busy people, people, and you don't have enough time, especially when you select some crops, because like crops like vegetables, if you plant especially bitter gourds or any other gourds, you need to do some bagging. Then you have to do, you need to train those vines. But if you have time only 1 hour per week to spend in your garden, I would advise you to not to select crops which needs intensive caring. And again, availability of resources, especially that also need to be considered, because most of, especially when we grow crops like vines, you need to do trellising or you need to train them. Then you need some resources like trees or some branches or some wood to make trellises. So likewise, you need some resources. Again, so if you grow some crops in pots, you need to frequently change the soil, or you need to have more soil media. Or sometimes if you are living on limited spaces, some concrete structures like waste water pits or different constructions are there. So then you might feel difficulties of growing them because the roots will be going everywhere, and it will be make a huge mess because it will be covering your drains or different, or the roots might go towards the buildings. So always you need to think about the resources when you select crops. So these are the basic things you need to always think when you select crops in your garden. So we have discussed this previously, but I thought again it's better to mention because these some of these tips are very useful to encourage you always. Otherwise, you will feel okay, I did this, but unfortunately these resources are not there, and you are not getting the expected outcome from the plants you have planted in your garden. Okay, then we'll discuss about crop establishment. Crop establishment means how to put a crop on your ground or on a container, or depending on the resources, you need to think about how to establish a crop. So I will explain you how to fill a pot or a container, because most of them will be, you are using pots or flower pots or different containers, or sometimes waste bottles or different types of things. So I will explain you to how to fill a pot. Then I will tell you how to do direct seed planting, because some of the varieties we can plant them directly as a seed. We don't need to plant them as a seedling. So I will explain you what are the varieties, crop varieties we can do direct seed planting. And there are some vegetables or some varieties, they need a nursery period. So like if I will explain you in detail. So crops like chili or eggplant, we cannot we can directly plant, but the process will be slower, or plant, it won't grow fast comparing planting a seedling. So I will explain you to how to make a nursery and prepare your own seedlings. Then you don't need to buy seedlings from outside a garden store. Then you can prepare your own seeds and prepare your own seedlings. Then I will explain different concepts. Then I will explain you seedling transplanting methods and how to take care of a plant after taking care of a seedling immediate after planting. Then apart from that, seeds and seeds, I will explain you some vegetative plant propagation methods as well, because those things also very important, because some of the plants, they are not producing seeds. So then we need to know how to propagate different types of those kinds of plants in our garden using vegetative, that means non-reproductive mechanisms, like not without using seeds. with through your roots or cuttings or different grafting techniques. I will explain you how to use them, how to propagate them in your garden. So next, in the next slide, I will be explaining you how to fill a pot or container for planting. So when we don't have enough garden space, when we don't have enough space to set up a plant on a ground, we can use this method. So containers can be various. It can be cement pots, plastic pots, or as I mentioned, some barrels or some water bottles, different kind of things we can use. So it's available commercially also available, but still you can use some waste pots or waste kitchenware or different items you can use for to plant trees. So I will explain how to fill a pot. So that's very important because most of you just mix some soil and put into the container or a pot. But during the rainy season or during the dry season, suddenly plant growth will be get retarded because of waterlogging or soil compaction. So I will explain you how to do it. So if you have a container, if you are going to do planting in a pot or a container, always you need to keep a small hole at the bottom of the container. So that means most of the commercially manufactured pots, they have a tiny hole at the bottom of the container to drain the additional water. But if you are taking a waste, so if you are recycling, if you are using some material available in your garden, like empty water bottle, or let's say 20-liter water bottle, or a barrel, or broken clay pot, or different that sort of thing, you need to prepare some holes. So either you can use a nail or you can use a cutter and prepare some holes at the bottom of the container. Then that will help you to drain the surplus water which you put into the soil media. So once you make those holes, then the first layer should be some, if there's only one hole, like a commercial pot, if there's only one hole, you can cover it using some brick particles or some clay roof tile particles. That will be under one layer. So that needs to be only 1 to 1.5 inch layer. If you put on the bottom of the pot, then you can fill it with some organic matter like dried or half composted, and then you can add another 2 inches of dried leaves or semi-composted organic matter at the bottom. Then only after that you can add soil that can be mixed with topsoil and some other organic matter mixed soil. So it can be in 1:1 ratio. Sometimes if you have topsoil and organic matter, you can add 1:1. Or if you have if your topsoil is too much clay, then you can add river sand into it as half river sand, half topsoil plus half compost. That kind of a combination you can use, and the rest of the amount you can fill it using that soil media. Then you need to always keep at least advised to keep 1 inch from the edge of the container. From the edge up to the soil layer, you need to keep at least 1 inch. So not at least 1 inch up to the top. If you water the plant, it will flow over the container or the pot. So always keep 1 inch less than from the soil media should be 1 inch less than the top edge of the container. So those are the basic tips when you fill a pot or a container. If you are doing container or filling containers and using them for your home garden, then always keep at least few holes at the bottom to drain the surface water. Then again, if you are keeping them on a flat surface like a concrete floor, always try to raise it, or you can use some 3 stones and keep it on that, or you can use some tray or another whatever available concrete small concrete piece, that kind of a plate you can keep on the top on the ground, and on top of that you can keep your container. That will also help you to drain the additional water which accumulates in the containers. So those are the important steps, and during the Q&A, please ask if any area is not clear for you. Okay, then we'll discuss about direct seed planting in the next slide. Okay, direct seed planting means there are a lot of varieties which we can put a direct seed direct into the soil or into your container. So we tell it as direct seed planting. So varieties like okra and all the gourds varieties like cucumber, bitter gourd, pumpkin, snake gourd, squash, even watermelon, then corn, those kind of crops, fruit crops, we can plant directly seeds. Again, root crops like carrot, radish, because root crops we cannot uproot and plant again. Because if we uproot and plant again as a seedling, the root system will be deformed. So we need to always plant, especially like carrots and beets, directly into the ground. But the crops like beetroot, I will explain it in the next slide. Beetroots, the crops like beetroot, we can do seedling. We can produce as seedlings and plant them on the ground. So when you plant a seed, you need to keep always, if the diameter of the seed is, let's say 1 inch, another 50% of that goes up to the ground, that will be enough. So like, let's say example, if you take a pumpkin seed, if the diameter of the pumpkin seed is only 1 inch, so you need to dig the ground only up to 1 inch and put the seed and cover it with a thin layer of soil. That's enough. Because sometimes you dig too much, like 2 to 3 inch. You make a small planting hole, 2 to 3 inch, and you put the seed into very deep. Then the seed may have difficulties to come out after sprouting. So then the seedling will be weak. So always keep in your mind just 1.5 inch, or if the seed width or the diameter is only 1 inch. So if you add another 50% of it and dig the soil media and cover it, that will be more than enough. That's one important thing. Then again, so most of the seedlings always they prefer heavy sun, because they're not heavy, they prefer sunlight. Because most of you, one failure what you do is after planting a seed, you cover it or put it under shade. Because originally seeds are generated they are born and bred to germinate under the sun. So if we cover them, those seeds, especially once after the germinating, seedlings can be very weaker. So always add enough water to germinate, because once you put a seed into the ground, seed absorb water. Because you need to always, once you put a seed, if the soil moisture is not saturated, always once you plant a seed, put some water. Then the seed out of the seed will start absorbing that water, and it will start sprouting. So those are the two things. One thing is sunlight. After planting, plant should get enough sunlight. The second thing is it needs enough soil moisture, or you need to water it to absorb and to start sprouting. So those are the tips of direct seed planting. Then we'll discuss about preparing your own seedlings, how to prepare seedlings in our home garden in the next slide. Okay, I explained this to you because when you dig the ground, you need to do as I mentioned before, and you need to cover it with a thin soil layer. And please look after all the seedlings. Sometimes ants might come and take the hidden seeds. So always be careful to entering of ants, and again the snails. So soon after start sprouting, snails will come and eat your plants. So those are another 2 steps. So let's discuss about seedling planting as well in the next slide. Okay, then there are, I discuss about the varieties which we can use, which we can do direct seed planting, and there are varieties which we can do, which we need to prepare nurseries. When the seeds are very small, like chili or tomato or brinjals or eggplant, so those seeds and seeds like cabbage and broccoli, cauliflower, they are very tiny, minute seeds. So if you try to put them directly on the ground, seed waste will be high because those are very tiny seedlings. It's very hard to germinate them if we directly put them on the ground. So then we need to prepare our own nurseries. That means we need to put seedlings into a special nursery, and we need to take care of those seedlings. And depending on the duration, and I will explain it to you, then we need to put them on the ground. So let's discuss more how to prepare nurseries and how to produce our own seedlings. And crops like herbs also, there are when they produce tiny seeds like basil, and those varieties also we need to set up in a nursery. Okay, then I will explain you. There are different ways of preparing nurseries. So one thing is in a container. So if you see the first picture, so it's a container. It's a normal clay, normal plastic pot. So we can add some soil media, and we can add those seeds and cover it with a thin soil layer, and we can wait for the germination. When the plants get enough 4 to 5 leaves, then we can slowly transplant them, take them out, and plant them in a polythene or another media. Or else you can use some paper cups or plastic cups or different things, and you can use poly bags. So poly bags are commercially available in different sizes. So if you plant coconuts, it will come on 14-inch size, and there are 1-inch to 2-inch to 4-inch different size of planting bags are available. And again, you can do directly on the ground, as you see in the fourth picture. So we can prepare our prepare nursery beds. We can dig it and prepare nursery beds, and we can put them on the ground as well. I will explain it to you how to prepare them step by step. Next slide, please. Okay, then I will take some time and explain these important factors in nursery management. And first, before that, I will explain it to how to put a seed on the ground. So if you take any media, it can be a small pot, even a polythene bag, or open ground. You need to distribute seed equally. So if the seeds are very small and you feel difficult in to distribute them equally on the ground, you can mix them with some sand, clean sand. You can mix the seed sample with the sand, and you can equally distribute them on the, if you are using a pot, you can equally distribute it on the top surface of the soil media. Then again, you can use 1/4 inch of thin soil layer, or even the same soil media layer, and spray it on seeds, just to cover them. Don't put too much, very 1 to 2 inch very thick layer of soil, because again, as I mentioned before, when the seeds start sprouting, it will become difficulties. The seedling get difficulties to face difficulties to come out from the nursery. So those are the things. And the one important factor is, once you set up, as always, you need to apply some water uh, uh, for the seeds to absorb, but always try to maintain the soil moisture level. As I mentioned in the previous session also, if you add too much too much water, your seeds can be rotten, or your seedlings can be have the disease called damping off, because when the seed comes out, it starts rotting from the ground. We call it as damping off. So the top part of the seedling will be very nicer with leaves, but from the surface, just above the surface of the soil, it starts rotting. So we take it as damping off. Then again, another important factor is we need to protect them from heavy rain. So I will explain it to you how to protect them from heavy rain. If you are putting doing a ground, I will show a picture in the next slide. If you are using open nursery, like if you are using the ground to set up seeds, you can cover them with a polythene during the heavy rain. But again, you can open it, and during when the rain is not there, you can expose the nursery into direct sunlight. The importance of protecting seeds from the heavy rain is, once you put seeds onto the ground, if suddenly heavy rains comes out, the media can be washed off, or the minute or the very weak small seedlings can be fell down. Okay, they can be damaged from the heavy rain. Then the other thing is, another important factor is sunlight. Always, all these seedlings prefer sunlight. So because most of you prepare seed nurseries, but you keep them in a shade, because if you keep them in a shade, the seedlings will start to become a vine. They will form as very long shape like vines, and they will try to come up looking for more sunlight. So if you set up a nursery, always try to give average sunlight level, because all these seeds prefer sunlight to grow. So if too much sunny, you can cover it using some shade nets or some coconut leaves or any other some like, let's say, straw on top of you can put a small mesh and cover them to protect them from heavy rain, heavy sun. Then another important factor is we can say hardening of plants. Hardening of plants means the nursery is a very soft and very comfortable area for all these plants, because you put them in a good soil media, and you taken care of them every day, and there are no any pest and diseases, and you get enough moisture levels. But when the plant goes out to the field is not very comfortable comparing with the nursery. So before that, you need to hardening your seedlings before doing transplanting. So transplanting means we take out a seedling from the nursery and put them on the ground. So before that, we need to do the hardening. Hardening means we slowly train these seedlings to adapt to the open field condition. That means if the sunlight is, let's say, around average sunlight is there, we slowly remove the shade, and we slowly train plants to the open sunlight. That means the full field sunlight condition. Or if you used to water the seedlings every day, you cut or you reduce the watering frequency, and let the plants to become more harder, because then these plants will adapt to open field conditions. So that's the term of hardening of plants, and it's very important factor when we are doing nursery management. Then another important factors is protecting seedlings from ants, because and when the seed start to germinate, it produce some sugar medias like glucose or some other sugar containing medias will be developing inside the seed. So the ants they love to come and eat it. So if you don't protect your seed, the nursery, ants will come and hide all your take all your seeds. And sometimes termites also, they come and damage, and they come and eat. And the snails are the most dangerous animals, especially during the management, because they during overnight they will come and eat. And sometimes you need to be very careful about your nurseries. Some butterflies come and they lay eggs on the nurseries, and the caterpillars they'll come out and they start to eat all the leaves. And sometimes lizards, what we call in Sinhala katusa, the lizards also sometimes come and hurt the plants. That's the another important thing. And the other thing is maintaining the soil temperature level. So this is the media temperature level. This is also a very important factor, especially if you prepare nurseries during December or cool, especially in the tropical countries, not in temperate countries. Even in temperate countries also, it's very important. You need to always, sometimes the soil moisture getting very low, you need to cover the soil with using some straw or some grass, tiny grass layer. So after 2 to 3 days, you can keep it. When the seeds start sprouting, you can slowly remove them out from the media. So that's in that way we can maintain the soil temperature, because to germinate a seed, water, media, and temperature are they are the most crucial important factors to produce a good quality seedling. Then the other important factor is we need to maintain the plant density, because if we put too much seeds on a limited space, and if the seed density is very thick, then the seedlings will start to grow together, and there will be a competition among seedlings. So the growth of the seedlings will be very poor if we put the higher density in at a nursery. So, and again, the like diseases like damping off also, if it comes to a nursery, it will start to uh, spread in a very high rate, because the seedlings are located very closer and very dense in your plant nursery. Then the final thing is control the seed density. I think, as I mentioned before, we need to always maintain a thin layer of seed, because some diseases like damping off that can be widely spread if the density is very high in your nursery. And again, when the seedling density is high, the seedlings can be very weaker, because many seeds produce plants, and they try to compete among each other. So all the nutrients available in the soil media will be distributed equally among all the seeds. So none of the seed will be grown. The seedling vigor, what we call the strength of the seedling, will be reduced if the seed density is very high. And we need to maintain average with seed density. That means at least 1 inch or half inch amount between two seedlings will be enough in between two seedlings to produce a very hard or stronger seedling. Okay, let's discuss the next slide. Okay, then now we all know how to prepare to produce our own seedlings. And now we need to discuss how to set these seedlings on the ground or on the growing media. So we discussed about hardening. So after hardening, only we need to put a seed on the ground, put a seedling on the ground. So always we need to think about the duration. So if we put a very small seedling on the ground, it will face difficulties in surviving under the open environmental conditions. So we need to always at least set up a seedling on the ground at least after 5 to 6 leaves appears on the plant. Then we can put them on the ground. Again, the size of the plant is also very important. So average, let's say chili plant, it has to be at least 3 to 4 inch above. So let's say in average scale, like crops like capsicum, cabbage, or brinjals, we can transplant after 3 weeks. But like tomatoes also, but like chilies, it will take 4 to 5 weeks. So that's in the nutshell, that's the duration. And the size also you need to think about. It has to be at minimum above 4 leaves to set up with them on the ground for a accelerated growth under open environmental condition. Okay, the next slide, please. Then, okay, we discussed about how to prepare seedlings and when to plant them on the ground. Then soon after planting, there are some immediate steps to be taken to protect them on the ground. So shading is very important, and especially once you plant them under heavy sun, you can use these some leaves like branches or down in this picture. I have used teak leaves, so we can cover the plants with the teak leaves, and we can apply water, and we can protect them for 4 to 5 days. Then the seedlings will produce new roots, and they will penetrate through the soil media. And after 4 to 5 days, the seedling has his own capacity and on his has its own strength to absorb water from the ground. So watering also important. Soon after planting seedling, you need to put water. So protecting early stages, so you can this is especially for nurseries, and if you are facing heavy rainy conditions, it always, especially if you are doing very tiny small garden, if you can cover those seedlings with the polythene layer like this, then you can protect them under heavy rain. And especially, it's another important factor, don't plant these seedlings early in the morning on the ground. Always try to plant them in on a evening, like let's say around 5 o'clock, or even later than that, 6 o'clock. It's better to put them on the ground around 6 o'clock in the evening. Then after transplanted them, you can add water. Then plant has more time, especially around 12 hours, because of the mist and cold temperature, it can adjust to the open environmental conditions after planting. So never do seedling planting early in the morning, because then the plant will expose to, even you cover it, the plant will expose to heavy sunlight, and the leaves will get dry off. Sometimes some crops like beet and special like beet, farmers used to remove the additional leaves and just keep the apical bud, or the bud only, and with the stem, and they used to plant them on the ground. Then slowly the plant will start to produce on leaves, and they will establish on the ground. That's a different, it's only a very unique case, but other than that, all the other crops you need to set up on the ground in the evening and cover it. So those are the important steps after planting. Next slide, please. Okay, then we discuss about plant propagation using seeds. But other than that, there are many different ways how we can produce plants or propagate plants in our home garden. Other one method is branches or through cuttings. Cuttings means like crops like bougainvillea, roses, or show flowers, those kinds of crops. And again, like greens, like mukunu spinach, or these kind of greens, and some herbs like let's say mint and flowers, and again cuttings, sweet potatoes. They will you can propagate them using cuttings. And there are some crops like let's say breadfruit or curry leaves. They can we can multiply them using roots. So if we cut a root particle and plant them in a media, they will it will give us a sprout, and it will produce another plant. And sometimes tubers like sweet potato. So if we dig them, if we burrow them on the ground, it will start to produce new shoots, and it will multiply. Especially the crops like this is another one point. We can plant sweet potatoes using cuttings also, and we can use tubers also. But if we use tubers to multiply them, the following season they will produce good quality bigger yams. But if you use a cutting, comparatively the size of the tuber will be less. So it's always, I always encourage you to plant select at least few tubers. Once you uproot your sweet potatoes, then you can keep few tubers until sprouting, and you can plant them and you can multiply them through vegetative propagation. Then there are some more tips. I will explain it to you in the next slide. So budding and grafting also a very important thing. So I'm not going to explain budding or drafting into very detail because it's a little bit technical thing. But there are simple methods of drafting. We call ground layering and air layering. So as you see in this picture, if you have especially like jasmine or different kind of flowers, if you can bend a branch to the ground, you can use this technique. You can make a small patch on the surface of the branch, and you can pin it to the ground, and you can keep a stone or you can cover it with some soil. Then this branch will start rooting, and we can after 2 to 3 weeks you will see some new buds emerging from this branch. Then you can cut it and plant it as a new plant. And we call there's another method we call air layering. So that means we take a branch like this and we damage the outer layer of the outer skin of the branch, and we can tie some coir dust or moist coir dust or moist soil media and tie it with a polythene piece of polythene. And if you can use a clear polythene, after you can see 2 to 3 weeks time, you can see new roots coming out from the this branch. Then you can from the below of the cutting you can cut it. Then you can take that branch and you can plant it in the on a polythene bag, and you can harden that plant. You can take it into a bigger plant, make it in as a bigger seedling, a bigger plant, and you can plant it in a separate place. So that is another technical step. We call it as air layering. Then there are different ways in accelerating rooting. So I will mention it that to you. One method is there are commercially available rooting hormones, but I'm not going to tell about these things. So if you're interested, you can buy, and you can, if you cut a branch, you can dip the branch in a rooting hormone, and you can plant it. But it's not, I'm not explaining it to further, but still you can use some simple techniques, like you can dip all the cuttings in a water container and keep for 1 or 2 weeks. Then it will start sprouting, not sprouting, it will start producing roots. So that's another method you can use, especially uh, especially when you are doing your own preparing your own nursery, especially in or cuttings. You can use this method. You can dip these branches in a water media. Then it will start producing roots. Then you can take it off and plant it. And there's another method called propagators. So again, you can take a mega bottle and put a soil media on it. You can cut a mega bottle into two pieces, and you can take the bottom piece and fill some soil, and you can plant these branches, and you can cover it the branch using the top part of the mega bottle. Then if you keep it for another 2 weeks time, 2 to 3 weeks time, it will accelerate the rooting. So it's another method. And again, you can use a poly bag, covered polythene bag. Again, we call it a simple propagator. You can take a cylindrical shaped polythene bag. You can add some soil around, let's say 4 to 5 inch soil layer at the bottom. Then you can plant all the branches in it, and you can tie it from the upper from the open corner. Then if you keep it another 2 to 3 weeks time, it will act as a circulate system. So the moisture won't evaporated. So it's a simple propagation technique. So then you can accelerate the rooting if you are using, if you need to multiply plants using the cuttings. So this is another simple technique we can use at the home gardens, especially if you need to accelerate rooting. Okay, I think Jenny or Hansen, you can explain the assign assessment for the next. I think, yeah, as I will explain it to you. So during the next assessment, please follow the techniques we have mentioned today, and you can submit the pictures before 20th February and any photographs related to these activities you have done. Then please send it to the mentioned email address as you did before. Then it will be added to you as assessment to you. Then the floor is open for questions and answers. Okay, I think we have one question from Mr. Ferrol. What are the propagation methods used in leaf vegetable and example? Okay, there are several. So propagating of leafy vegetables is very easy. So you can always use the cuttings. But if you take centella or what you call gotu color, there are runners, but still the cuttings or runners or cuttings or sometimes roots, especially gotu color roots, you can plant them. It will easily bring new plants. But other leaf vegetables, almost all the branches or the cuttings, you can plant them to propagate them. And there are some varieties like spinach. They produce seeds. So seeds also you can use to propagate the in your garden. When we dip cutting, another questions. When we dip cuttings in water, forget roots, sometimes the cutting going to be rot. Can we do something for that? Of course you can do. So what we call, if you have a wood ash, so or dried cow dung, you can mix with dried cow dung and wood ash and make it as a pulp, and you can apply it on the cut surface. Then it will not rotten. Or you can sometimes you can use lime, especially the people used to chew beetle and lime. That lime you can make a small paste and apply on the cut surface. Then it will work against the fungal rot. So that will work. And sometimes especially when you plant tuber cuttings, uh, again before especially tuber cuttings, you can cut these tubers and keep for a while, like let's say a few hours. Then it will produce a natural layer, what you call a natural antioxidant layer on top of this, and like a phenol layer. Then it will start to turn brown, and it will act as a antifungal media. The very important thing is when you do dip cutting, once you make, always you need to have a fresh cut, because if you cut it now and keep for several years, the microbes will go there and it will start to get rotten. So if you are going to dip it, if you even imagine if you uh, cut a branch from your garden around 7 o'clock, you are going to dip it at 8 o'clock. Before you dip it, make another fresh cut and dip it in the water. Always, if you are going to dip, always try to make a fresh cut and dip it on the water. And the surface which is not get contacted with water, please do the method that what I said you again before. Make a lime mixture or a ash and cow dung mixture and apply a thin layer on the cut surface. Then it will act as a antifungal media. Can you explain about propagation of lettuce? Okay, lettuce can be propagated in two different ways. So if you have a lettuce plant in your garden, if you keep it for a let's say lettuce is normally 35 to 6 days plant, so the leaves get start bitter taste after 45 days. So if you keep it further, the lettuce plant will produce its own seeds. So you can use those seeds and put them in a nursery and prepare your own seedlings. And there's another method, but it is not very successful in commercial scale, but still you can use them at your home garden stage. Don't uproot the full lettuce plant. You can keep several inches from above the ground of the lettuce plant and cut it. Cut it and get the harvest by after keeping the stem part on the ground. Then again, some shoots will be coming. Even for cabbage also you can do that, but still you can get some leaves, but it's not very applicable to commercial scale cultivation, but still in a home garden you can use. Even leeks also, if you plant the root part on the ground, again it will start propagating and it will give you some leafy yield. Please explain how to propagate fruit plants on a nursery. Same like I mentioned before, or you can take all the fruit, like if you take orange seeds or any other seeds, you can best way is to use poly bags. You can or a nursery or pomegranate. You can put you can propagate them in a big container first. Then you can uproot 3 to 4 leaves, seedlings which are having 3 to 4 leaves. Then you can take it out and you can again plant it in a small poly bags. When it grows further, then you can plant the poly bag on the ground. So that's the most appropriate way of multiplying fruit plants, because you need to follow 2 stages. One thing need to be on a dense nursery. It can be in a pot or a ground nursery. Then you can uproot the small seedlings. You can put them onto a small poly bags. Then you can make it into a bigger plant. Then you can plant them on the ground. Then have another
I
question.
think that's all the time we have for questions.
Final question. Shall I give? Okay,
Yeah.
we can reply. Okay.
Okay.
Sometimes leaves of the seedlings shrinking or becoming yellow. It means some virus. Okay. This question we'll be answering in the next session on pest and disease.
Okay. So thank you everyone for joining today. Thank you, Anuradha, for your valuable time actually, and sharing some amazing information. I'm sure everybody learned a lot. So we hope to see everybody next time at the next session. So till then, stay safe,